Hi, this is Tim from As I Lay Dying, and you are watching Metalshop TV. Yeah, we're very happy with Shaped by Fire. Even though we were gone for so many years, we actually wrote most of it in about 3 months leading up to the album because we hadn't worked together in a long time, and so Phil and I started exchanging ideas, and 3 months later we had Shaped by Fire. And so when we get home from this tour, we plan to work on a new album, do the same thing, exchange ideas for the next few months, and hopefully record before the end of the year. I think Shaped by Fire is a really good capture of that moment in time. You know, the feelings and emotions that we were working through as a band, and all the lyrics that I had a chance to write in the aftermath of everything I had gone through over the last 10 years just came together very naturally, and I think that it represents that time of the band. I think we can expand in the future, but for Shaped by Fire, we wanted to just do what came instinctually to us. Well, we have demos going back and forth between Phil and I. The two of us have been writing songs for 20 years, and so we have a very, I guess, refined method of writing, you know, where we exchange demos early on so that they have room to be pulled apart, and then once there's a full instrumental, then I start writing lyrics. And I typically don't write lyrics until after we have all the instrumentals together. So pretty shortly after this tour, we'll finish the demo process, and then I can start writing lyrics, and hopefully by the end of the year we'll finish recording so we can have an album next year. Yeah, I think for our fans, they think that the changes happened all in a very short period of time, but they actually happened over the last 2 years. The first change was on guitar. We invited Ken Susi to fill in for us. And that was about 2 years ago that we invited him, but then of course the pandemic happened, and so we had a lot of breaks until we had a tour again. So Ken's been rehearsing with us, or talking about rehearsing with us for the last couple of years. And then on drums we have Nick Pierce, who joined us. They both, Nick Pierce was previously Unearth, Ken is from Unearth as well. And Nick stopped playing with Unearth, and coincidentally at the same time we needed a drummer because our previous drummer hadn't been communicating with us. He went very isolated once the pandemic hit, and so there wasn't like an argument or anything like that. It just was a situation where when the pandemic hit, he decided to take a new direction in life and kind of cut himself off from the rest of us. And we decided we wanted to keep going forward. Phil and I have been the ones writing the songs all these years, and so when Nick Pierce left Unearth, we thought it was a perfect opportunity to have him perform with us. And then Ryan came from Miss May I, and he's the last guy to come. He didn't come until a couple months ago. Our bass player Josh previously left, and he's with Spirit Box now. And when he decided to go perform with Spirit Box, we called up Ryan, who was with Miss May I, and Ryan Neff was on tour at the time. And then we asked him, "Can you start touring with us as soon as this tour is over?" And he said, "Well, I'm only going to have 3 days off to rehearse in between tours." He said, if you guys want me to do it, I'll make sure I come prepared. And he had a lot to learn in 3 days, but he pulled it together. He's a very, very hardworking guy. Well, I'd say that some of the bands that I grew up listening to were a little bit more on the hardcore side, and then when I learned to play guitar, I wanted to go more in a metal direction because metal was more interesting to play on guitar. But the early bands, you know, I know Poison the Well was an early metalcore band. Let's see, there was so many of these early bands that we don't necessarily sound a lot like them now, but they helped, I think, develop the genre before our wave with Unearth and ourselves, and you know, Killswitch Engage and Lamb of God. These newer bands came along, and I think they brought the genre to a new level. But the early days, I remember listening to All Out War, which was like a metal hardcore crossover, and I grew up listening to thrash music as well, and so you can hear the thrash influence in As I Lay Dying compared to our peers, which a lot of times are a little bit more melodic or sometimes not as fast as we are. So even though we're a metalcore band, I think we have influences ranging from the early hardcore era to like, In Flames and some of the more melodic metal bands. Well, 20 years ago, I was the sole songwriter in the band, and then a couple years later, in 2004, when Phil joined the band, he became the primary songwriter on guitar, and so he's a much better guitar player than I am. So you can hear in our work, the early records, were a lot of the energy that I brought to the band, but as a guitar player, I was very limited, and so you hear the idea that's there, but it's not as progressed as later when Phil started writing songs with me. And so I think that we found a good balance now where we have just enough technicality to make it fun for Phil as a guitar player, but the original energy that I founded the band on, which is something that's not necessarily like how the guitar is played, but it's how the songs are arranged and how like I said, the energy, that crossover between the melodic metal side, but still the very heavy rhythms. From the question earlier, I mentioned early influences. One of them was Living Sacrifice, who is very rhythmically based. So we have that rhythmically based side mixed with the shredding guitar side. When Phil first showed me some of the riffs he had for Confined, and then I brought some rhythms to it, and we combined all those ideas and made Confined, we knew right off the bat that was going to be a hit. And originally that was actually supposed to be the opening track on Shadows Are Security, but we always knew that was going to be one of our favorite songs. And then later, when Phil wrote the riffs for Sound of Truth, we felt like maybe it wasn't heavy enough at first, it was too melodic, or I was worried that it wouldn't feel like as intense as the rest of our songs. But once we added the drums and everything else to it, it really came together. But we had no idea that the Sound of Truth would be as popular as it was, and so we put it, I think it was like song 8 on An Ocean Between Us, which typically bands put the later half of the record are the songs that aren't as popular as the early half, and so we didn't recognize its power during the writing process. Well, for me, I really enjoy playing through Struggle because it has a very simple intro, and when I first wrote the rhythms for that intro, I really felt like you could picture a big crowd of people really just like pumping their fists with its very simple start, but then it goes throughout a few different changes in the song, and the crowd always interacts really well with that song. So to me, that's a favorite song, both because of the sound of it, but then also because the lyrics represent a lot for me. My life getting to this point, it's very much been a struggle, but it's through that struggle that I've grown as a person. That's a really hard one to say. So my favorite tattoo, this is actually incomplete, but I have a phoenix on my right arm that we're still finishing. Tim Barnes, or Timmy B, is the tattoo artist, and to me, that represents that rebirth, after being gone for so long and then coming back in 2019 with Shaped by Fire. Not just that album, but that whole era of time for me was a new era of representing the next chapter of my life, and so that's what that phoenix on my right arm represents. If I wasn't a musician, I would put more time into, I have a nonprofit that works with people who were previously incarcerated or have gone through addiction treatment. And because it's a nonprofit, that's not my living. I don't make money from that, but there is a lot of need for workers in that field. And I used to work in the addiction treatment field when I was first, after my incarceration, the first year I spent as a case manager at an addiction treatment facility. And I also did group therapy as a certified addiction treatment counselor, and it was very rewarding work. It wasn't necessarily very good income, but it was very rewarding. I mean, specifically when I think of the Czech Republic, I think of Prague and how beautiful the city is, and every time somebody asks me, say, hey, what's your favorite city to visit in Europe? I say, well, if you've never been to Europe, you have to go to Prague. It's the most beautiful city to walk around, and even if you don't go inside anywhere, if you just walk around the city for an afternoon, you'll know what I'm talking about. And so everybody that I've come to Prague with for the first time, they agree with me. And I'm sure most of the people here in the Czech Republic know that, it's such a beautiful city.